Hello comics fam. As you all know, 2 new Evil Dead movies, Burn and Wrath, have been announced, along with A24's Crystal Lake prequel series to Friday the 13th. But did you know about the most savage, blood-soaked chapter in all Evil Dead and Friday the 13th lore? It was when Freddy Krueger, from A Nightmare on Elm Street, took matters into his own twisted hands. Based on the original Freddy Vs Jason sequel script by Jeff Katz, this brutal crossover sequel to Freddy Vs Jason and the Evil Dead trilogy was written by James Kuhorik and illustrated by Jason Craig. So grab your chainsaws, sharpen your machetes, and tear open that subscribe button, because it's Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, and it's absolute carnage. Chapter 1. The Nightmare on Friday the 13th. 5 years had slipped into the past since the infamous showdown between Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees in Freddy vs. Jason. The town, once called Crystal Lake, now rechristened as Forest Green, had been almost completely reborn. Newly paved highways cut through the land. Glossy condominiums rose where rotting cabins once stood, and a towering super mega ultra S-Mart loomed over everything, all part of a frantic attempt to bury the town's blood-soaked reputation. Yet no amount of steel and concrete could truly entomb the nightmares. The evil that had saturated the ground still breathed beneath the surface, stubborn and unforgettable. The feral memories of Freddy and Jason's war continued to cling to the town like a sickness. The 2 abominations had torn into each other with unrestrained savagery, Jason hacking away with his machete, Freddy shredding flesh with his razor glove. Their feud had scorched the very soul of the lake. Jason remained an unstoppable engine of slaughter, while Freddy's legacy as a dream-haunting butcher lingered like a poisonous fog, suffocating hope itself. Elsewhere, Will and Laurie drove along snow-covered roads leading back toward the lake. A knot of anxiety twisted in Laurie's gut, the unmistakable feeling that something was terribly wrong. Unable to hold it inside any longer, she asked Will why he had been so quiet. She asked if he still loved her. Will told her he did, but the hesitation in his voice betrayed the fear they were both trying to hide. Laurie confessed that she didn't believe Freddy and Jason were truly gone, and that doubt had compelled her to return to Crystal Lake in search of the truth. When they arrived, the tension felt crushing. Everything looked different, yet Laurie's dread only grew stronger as the cold air stung her skin. Both of them wanted to leave before nightfall, but Laurie couldn't bring herself to go. She needed proof that the nightmare was over. As they explored the area, she noticed something that froze her blood. A smear of blood streaked across a tree. Her breath hitched, and she whispered Jason's name, convinced his presence still haunted the woods. Her fear deepened when she found even more blood. Without warning, Will was seized and dragged away by something unseen. Laurie screamed his name and ran after him, but she was already too late. She discovered Will's body pinned against a wall, split open, his inside spilling out. Shattered, Laurie collapsed into sobs and cried, "This can't be. We survived. We beat Freddy and Jason." Pure instinct took over, and Laurie tried to run, but Jason revealed himself. He charged out of the darkness, machete swinging. The blade sliced into her as she stumbled away, pain ripping through her body. She knew she couldn't outrun him forever. Jason hunted her relentlessly, smashing through walls and slashing within inches of her face. Laurie hid, praying for some kind of miracle, but Jason's machete punched through the wall, barely missing her head. Terror surged through her, but she refused to give up. Grief and rage over Will's death drove her onward. Jason grabbed an iron beam and hurled it with monstrous force, impaling Laurie through the shoulder and pinning her to the wall. Gasping, Laurie ripped herself free, blood pouring down her arm. Jason stood there, silently watching her suffer. The sorrow inside her ignited into blazing fury. She had lost everything. Simply surviving was no longer enough. She needed to end this. Laurie swore that Freddy and Jason would take no more lives. Drawing on every ounce of courage she had left, Laurie set a trap and lured Jason into one final confrontation. As he closed in, she realized she wasn't just meant to live through the horror, she was meant to stop it. She shouted at Jason and fired up an electric saw, bracing herself for the fight. Laurie charged, hacking into Jason with all her strength. The blade tore into his chest, spraying blood. She dodged his swings and carved into his back, ripping through flesh and bone. She screamed at him, demanding to know when it would ever be enough. With a final burst of strength, Laurie sent Jason crashing through a window. he tumbled into the snow below, motionless. Believing she was the only one who could finish it, Laurie went downstairs to deliver the final blow, but Jason appeared behind her. Before she could even turn, his machete came down across her face. Laurie collapsed, lifeless. Inside, Freddy's severed head appeared on a nearby sign, laughing and mocking Jason, a cruel reminder that the nightmare was far from over. At the S-Mart, Caroline, aka Carrie, Davy, and Raoul joked around while working. Raoul made a dirty crack about his candy cane, and they laughed until the manager scolded them. Irritated, they stuck an I Lick Jingle Ball sign on his back and watched him walk away. Back at the cabin, Jason dragged Will and Laurie's bodies inside. On a crude shrine rested the heads of Pamela Voorhees and Freddy Krueger. Suddenly, they vanished as Freddy's laughter echoed through the room. Jason drifted into a dream. He saw Camp Crystal Lake, counselors having sex, kids mocking and tormenting him. Then he witnessed Freddy having sex with Pamela. Enraged, Jason raised his machete, but Pamela calmed him. She told Jason he needed a daddy and that Freddy would protect him. Freddy promised Jason a normal life if Jason freed him by retrieving the Necronomicon Ex Mortis from their old house. You want that, don't you, Jason, dear? To be a normal little boy? Outside S-Mart, a car pulled up. Inside sat Ash Williams, legendary deadite killer, time traveler, and king of bad decisions. He reflected on how his simple life was long gone, replaced by endless bloodshed, and one unchanging mission: destroy the Necronomicon. He knew the cursed book had been dragging him into violent nightmares for years. As Ash stepped out of his car, Jason watched silently from the shadows, waiting. Chapter 2. Evil Dead? No, it ain't. Ash Williams pulled up outside the S-Mart, quietly musing on how Crystal Lake had somehow reinvented itself into the proud location of a super-ultra-mega S-Mart warehouse. With dry sarcasm, he reflected on how he had supposedly been assigned to tidy up the housewares department, though he knew in his gut that his presence here was about something far more serious. As he made his way toward the entrance, 3 young women strolled past him, laughing and fooling around. Ash flashed a confident grin and introduced himself. Hello, ladies. Name's Ash. But you can call me anytime. Before he could enjoy the moment, the store manager stepped in, addressing him sharply as Mr. Ashley J. Williams. He launched into a lecture about Ash being 7 minutes late and reminded him that Super Ultra Mega S-Mart demanded professionalism and discipline from its employees. Ash shrugged it off with visible indifference. Though unseen to them, Jason Voorhees stood hidden among the trees, silently observing. The girls continued their banter as they walked away, poking fun at Ash's old-school attitude, with one of them making crude comments about her own body. Their laughter echoed through the cold air, completely unaware that death had already fixed its gaze upon them. Jason remained motionless, his blank mask facing them, but in their mocking faces, he saw Freddy's burned flesh and twisted grin staring back at him. Without warning, Jason struck. He cleaved one of the girls, Paris, straight down the middle with a single machete swing, splitting her in half as blood erupted across the snow. Her friends screamed and tried to run, but Jason was already on them. He grabbed both women and smashed their heads together with horrifying force, killing them instantly as their blood splattered violently outward. A passerby witnessed the slaughter and began screaming for help, drawing attention to the carnage. Inside S-Mart, security was alerted, and the store manager quickly dragged Ash along, announcing him as the new sheriff in housewares. As Ash stepped outside, the grim reality set in when he saw the bodies and bloodstained snow. He knelt beside a traumatized woman and asked what had happened, but she could only shake and point toward the trees. As Ash surveyed the scene, an old woman cried out in terror. Jason! Ash frowned grimly and muttered, "Blood, this ain't good." Police sirens soon filled the air. Ash groaned under his breath about the cops always showing up at the worst times. When officers arrived, suspicion immediately fell on Ash, but the store manager confirmed that Ash had been inside during the murders. One officer clearly disliked Ash's attitude and warned him that trouble seemed to follow him wherever he went. Ash fired back with a sarcastic remark, but his attention was already drifting back to the horror unfolding around him. Inside the store, Ash gathered the young and largely clueless employees and explained who Jason Voorhees was, how he was tied to Camp Crystal Lake, and what had happened there years ago. The conversation eventually shifted to the Necronomicon, the ancient book of the dead that Ash had been hunting for years, a book capable of summoning deadites that could possess humans and wear them like condoms. Ash made it clear that destroying the book was his ultimate goal, but Jason's presence made everything far more dangerous. Suddenly, Raoul threw on a hockey mask and rushed Ash with an ice stick. Ash blocked the swing and knocked Raoul flat on his back. He was about to beat him bloody when Davy stepped in and explained that Raoul was only joking. Elsewhere, Jason returned to his lair carrying the decapitated bodies of the women. Inside Jason's mind, Freddy appeared like a grotesque father figure, mocking and manipulating him. Freddy belittled Jason's intelligence, calling his brain oversized and cancerous, and claimed Jason couldn't understand anything without the Necronomicon. Freddy told Jason that once he retrieved the book, they could have father and son story time, and he would read Jason a special tale called The Nightmare Beyond Elm Street, all while laughing as hellfire burned around them. Jason followed Freddy's voice toward a do not enter sign and continued onward until he reached the Voorhees house. There he encountered a group of carolers led by an overly strict conductor, obsessed with perfection. Jason struck first, killing the conductor and plunging the group into chaos. One girl was impaled through the chest with a metal rod, spraying blood everywhere. Others were slaughtered just as brutally, their severed heads rolling across the ground as survivors screamed in terror. Back at S-Mart, Ash flirted with a woman named Bree who was shopping for camping gear. Bree flirted back, teasing Ash and asking for his help filling her cart, mentioning she planned to camp at a cabin. When Bree admitted she didn't have enough money, Ash offered to use his employee discount. They made plans to go to the Voorhees house before it was demolished. Bree's friends, however, ditched Ash by driving off without him, prompting Ash to mutter about how much he hated frat boys. The same group soon arrived at the Voorhees house, laughing about how easy it had been to use Ash. Inside, they began preparing for sex while Jason watched silently from outside. Ash drove toward the Voorhees house, unaware that Carrie was secretly following him to make sure he stayed out of trouble. Ash knew the Necronomicon would likely be in the fruit cellar, a place usually filled with spiders and bones. Inside the house, the teens continued fooling around, unaware of what was coming. Jason burst in and tore one girl in half with his bare hands, spreading blood and entrails everywhere. He crushed another boy's skull until blood poured from every opening. As Jason slaughtered the teens, Ash drew closer to the book. Ash located the Necronomicon beneath the floorboards and remarked sarcastically about how predictable its hiding place was. Upstairs, Jason raised his machete to decapitate another couple in mid-sex. Ash lifted the book and smirked. "Gotcha!" At that moment, a blood-soaked machete smashed through the cellar ceiling. Criminy! Ash raced upstairs and discovered the decapitated bodies. He frantically called out for Bree. Bree ran out of her room, wrapped in a towel, having been in the shower the entire time. She whispered in shock that everyone was dead. Ash kissed her and said, "But we're not." Jason attacked. Ash dodged the machete and blasted Jason in the chest with his shotgun. He yelled for Bree to run to the car. Outside, Ash tried starting his vehicle, but it refused to turn over. Jason approached them slowly, bleeding but relentless. Ash slammed the steering wheel and shouted, "Come on, you piece of shit. Start, damn it, start." Chapter 3. Freddy's back. Ash and Bree sat trapped inside the car as Jason Voorhees closed the distance with terrifying speed. Bree, on the verge of hysteria, begged Ash to start the engine, her voice trembling uncontrollably. Ash, however, kept his composure, dryly remarking that Jason didn't look like some overdue trick-or-treater but more like a walking deadite with a personal grudge against anyone trying to get their hands on the Necronomicon. Even as Bree's panic intensified, Ash calmly complained about his car's unreliable starter, all while making it clear that if it came down to it, he would face Jason head-on. Jason did not hesitate. With brutal precision, he hurled his blood-soaked machete directly at the vehicle. The blade shattered through the window with a violent crack, but Ash reacted instantly, catching it with his mechanical hand. Bree screamed as Jason continued advancing without slowing. Ash and Bree scrambled out of the car just before Jason reduced it to twisted wreckage with sheer force. They fled into the snow, struggling to put distance between themselves and the unstoppable killer. Ash slipped and tumbled into the freezing ground, Bree stumbling after him. Jason bulldozed forward, smashing through obstacles as though they didn't exist. In the middle of the chaos, Carrie arrived in another car and rammed straight into Jason, knocking him off his feet. She shouted for Ash to get in. Ash, startled but appreciative, asked how she had known where to find him. Carrie simply replied that she had a feeling he would need help. Carrie sped away with Ash and Bree inside, but Bree remained in shock, repeating that everyone was dead. Ash tried to steady her, reminding her that Jason was still alive and coming for them, and that panic wouldn't save anyone. They agreed to return to S-Mart to regroup and figure out how to deal with both Jason and the Deadites. Meanwhile, inside Jason's fractured mind, Freddy Krueger had taken control. He appeared as a warped schoolteacher in a grotesque classroom, addressing a childlike version of Jason. Freddy mocked Jason's limited intellect and ridiculed him for failing to retrieve the Necronomicon. As young Jason sat silently, Freddy sliced open his scalp, peeling it back to expose his brain. He sneered at the empty space inside, joking that there was enough room for a hot tub. During the torment, Freddy uncovered what he needed to know. The Necronomicon was at S-Mart. Smiling wickedly, he prepared to send Jason to fetch it. Back in reality, Ash and Bree arrived at S-Mart and encountered a group of loud, oblivious employees. They laughed and cracked crude jokes, brushing off Ash's warnings that Jason was real and actively killing people. When Ash tried to take command, they mocked him instead. Holding the Necronomicon, Ash warned them that Deadites existed, and Jason was a relentless murderer. It wasn't until Bree, desperate and shaken, begged everyone to stop arguing and work together that the mood began to shift. Before any real plan could form, Jason entered the store. Panic exploded. A woman screamed his name before Jason drove the machete through her skull. He sliced a man clean in half. He hoisted a shopping cart and slammed it down onto an old man's head, the metal bars tearing through flesh as blood and entrails covered the floor. In another aisle, he lifted a woman and impaled her onto nails in the wall, as if mounting a trophy. Ash, Bree, and Carrie watched the massacre unfold. Bree gasped that Jason was killing everyone, while Carrie clutched the Necronomicon to her chest, whispering in horror, "Dead, dead, dead." As chaos consumed the store, Ash slowly walked away, oddly detached. Bree shouted after him, reminding him that he was the chosen one and that they couldn't stop Jason without him. Ash continued toward the exit. The store manager appeared, demanding Carrie clear the building and call the police. Before she could respond, Jason materialized behind him and split his head in two with a single stroke. Blood sprayed everywhere. Bree realized Jason was after the Necronomicon, and Carrie yelled for her to move, shouting that Jason wanted the book. At that moment, Ash returned, chainsaw strapped to his right arm, shotgun in his left, the boomstick ready. He faced Jason with renewed swagger and called him Wayne Deadsky. Ash fired, but Jason barely slowed. They clashed violently, chainsaw against machete. Jason blocked the attack, knocked the chainsaw away, and hurled Ash through shelves and walls with crushing strength. Jason then turned to Bree and seized the Necronomicon from her hands. As he walked away, Carrie rushed to Bree's side, only to find her throat slashed open, her body soaked in blood. Shock rippled through the survivors. Jason returned to his lair with the book. Inside his mind, Freddy waited eagerly. Jason opened the Necronomicon and placed Freddy's severed head before it. Freddy grinned and began to chant, Klaatu, Virata, Nikto. Dark magic surged once again. Well, brainless boy, a deal's a deal. Let's see if a few words from the book can breathe life into those deadhead brain cells of yours. Jason stood silent as Freddy continued, savoring every word. Come on, Jason. You did your part. Now I'll make sure we keep this nightmare going. Time to see what nightmares we can wake up next. Later, Ash and the remaining survivors gathered in a dim room to discuss why Jason wanted the Necronomicon. One employee questioned how Jason could even read it. Ash explained that someone else had to be manipulating him, pulling his strings. If they could cut those strings, they could stop Jason. Ash added that the book contained a way to send Jason into the Deadite dimension permanently. They decided to return to the Voorhees house at dawn. Ash told everyone to rest while he stood watch, but exhaustion eventually overcame him, and he drifted to sleep. In his dream, Ash awoke feeling strange. He looked down and saw that his severed hand was restored, whole again. At first he felt relieved, almost joyful, but the relief twisted into horror as razor blades pushed through his fingers, transforming his hand into Freddy's claw. Freddy appeared, laughing as his voice echoed inside Ash's mind. Ash fell to the floor, clutching the mutated hand and shouting, "You bastards, you took my hand again." Chapter 4. Blood Feud. Ash screamed as he stared at his twisted, mutated hand. He understood what it meant. The moment he had been marked as the chosen one, his fate had been sealed. He had been cursed with farewell to arms. The memory came rushing back. How the Deadites had taken over his right hand and forced him to cut it off during the events of Evil Dead 2. Stumbling toward the tool shed, Ash dug around until he found a chainsaw, already knowing exactly what had to be done. And he did it. He grabbed the chainsaw and severed his razor hand. He had been through this before, and he would get through it again. Blood seeped from the stump, dripping onto the ground. But within every drop of blood, Freddy's laughter echoed. Freddy's face appeared in the pooling blood beneath Ash, grinning up at him as he mocked him. "What's the matter, Ash? Having a little déjà vu?" From the blood, multiple tiny Freddys began crawling out across the floor. Freddy started reciting his infamous nursery rhyme. 1, 2, little Freddys for you. 3, 4, better watch the floor. 5, 6, gonna gut you quick. 7, 8, watch us coagulate. 9, 10, Freddy's whole again. As he spoke the final line, the tiny Freddys merged together, reforming his full body. He stretched and expressed relief at finally being free from Jason's mind, mocking the masked hillbilly and admitting he couldn't stand being trapped in there any longer. Ash made it clear why he was here. He wanted the Necronomicon, and once Freddy handed it over, he would finish the job by killing him. Still unsure what Freddy truly was, Ash dismissed him as some kind of effed up deadite. Freddy quickly corrected him, revealing his identity, Freddy Krueger, the King. He boasted that the dreamscape was his playground, a place where he controlled everything and everyone. With the Necronomicon, Freddy intended to cement his power and rule over both the dream world and the real world. Freddy proposed a game, Pin the Claw, and launched his razor hand at Ash. Ash reacted fast, grabbing his shotgun and blasting the hand away with a powerful boom. Freddy didn't seem fazed. Ash sarcastically remarked that he had always been terrible at party games, then challenged Freddy to a round of truth or die, where Freddy either gave him answers or took one from the boomstick. Freddy mocked him, saying Ash wasn't quick enough to stop Mother Nature. He compared the multiplying blades to jackrabbits, as smaller clawed hands began surrounding Ash again, closing in to tear him apart. Realizing how bad things were, Ash hoped it was all just a dream, and that maybe now would be a good time to wake up. Then it clicked. He had just fired his shotgun, and the barrel was still scorching hot. Without hesitation, he pressed it against the skin of his severed arm. Ash jolted awake. He found himself back in reality, a burn mark seared onto his right arm exactly where he had pressed the barrel. He immediately shouted for everyone to wake up. Carrie told him Davey wouldn't wake up, no matter what they tried. Freddy had already reached him. Inside a nightmare, Freddy had set up a twisted dodgeball game, tormenting Dave. The scene played out like a warped gym class, with Freddy mocking the students as he picked teams. Chet and Selma were named captains, while Dave was left unwanted, the others arguing about who had to take him. Freddy stepped in as coach, singling Dave out and humiliating him by suggesting he had feelings for Carrie. Then he introduced the game, Dodge or Die. Dave tried to run, but Freddy unleashed a barrage of deadly dodgeballs that slammed into him again and again, battering his chest and body with brutal force. The dream became lethal, as the punishment carried over into reality. Back in the real world, Ash and the others realized Dave was in serious danger, trapped inside Freddy's nightmare. Carrie and the group tried desperately to wake him, but it was already too late. Multiple Freddys surrounded Dave in the dream and began clawing into him. His injuries appeared in reality. Dave collapsed, bleeding out, and died. Freddy reveled in the destruction he had caused. In his twisted domain, he gloated, enjoying every bit of suffering. He mocked Jason, treating him as nothing more than a tool in a larger plan. His control stretched across both the dream world and reality, and he continued pulling the strings. Freddy's plan was far from finished. He sent Jason out again, ordering him to dig up his mother's rotting body and hunt down the remaining kids, while he stayed behind to do some heavy reading from the Necronomicon, strengthening himself. Ash, Carrie, and the others quickly understood how serious things had become. They were facing two unstoppable forces in Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. Freddy was growing stronger, using Jason as his weapon, and tormenting them through nightmares. They needed to act fast. Ash regrouped everyone and laid out a plan. They would stock up on weapons and explosives to take down both monsters. Carrie, Raoul, and Jarvis gathered supplies while Ash and Carrie secured the rest. With the pressure building, Ash stayed focused on one goal: get the Necronomicon back and send both Freddy and Jason to hell. Time was running out. They prepared for a final confrontation and headed toward the Voorhees house. Ash upgraded his chainsaw into a lightning capable of cutting through steel beams. The plan was simple: set explosives on the porch, lure Jason in, and blow him apart. Ash made it clear that no one else was dying tonight. He had already seen enough blood. As Raoul and Jarvis scouted ahead through the dark woods, they encountered Jason. Panic set in immediately. His silent, towering presence shook them, and in a moment of fear, one of them even lost control, barely managing to stay hidden as Jason moved closer. Carrie, waiting in the van, watched Jason approach the explosives. Then he suddenly stopped. Slowly, he turned his head toward her and raised his hand, wagging his finger. No, no, no. In that moment, Carrie realized something had changed. Jason was becoming smarter. A deep sense of dread settled over her. Inside the house, Ash moved carefully through the darkness, chainsaw ready as he searched for the Necronomicon. When he finally found it, he smirked and mocked it as Necronomicon Extrapius, calling it the Book of the Shitty Dead. He reached for it, ready to recite the banishment passage, and Freddy's claw punched through his neck. Ash screamed in pain, unsure if he had slipped back into a dream. Freddy revealed that he was now free from Jason's control, thanks to Ash and the book. With the Necronomicon, Freddy planned to rule both worlds and kill every child on Elm Street everywhere. Even in pain, Ash mocked him, calling him shredded beef. And, declaring himself the chosen one, he swore he would stop Freddy and send him back to hell. Freddy laughed and unleashed a powerful spell from the book, flooding the room with fiery orange light. Ash tried to block it with his chainsaw, but it was too late. The energy burst outward and wrapped around Jason, binding him in place. Ash cursed himself for not seeing it sooner. Razor hands erupted and pinned him to the wall as Freddy laughed maniacally, calling it the best hand job ever. The situation escalated further when Jason crashed through a door, ready to fight. Somehow, he understood Freddy was the real enemy now. Freddy mocked him, bringing up their alliance, and wondering what Jason's mother would think of his betrayal. Freddy refused to back down. He summoned the souls of Jason's victims, calling them to rise and take revenge. As the undead swarmed Jason, Freddy's laughter echoed all around. Chapter 5. Wrath of the Evil Dead. Freddy stood looming over Jason, taunting him as the ghosts of his past victims clawed their way back from the grave. Now twisted into vengeful zombies, they swarmed him, dragging him down and holding him in place. Freddy mocked him, joking about breaking out the beans and wieners, since Jason's old Camp Crystal Lake buddies were just dying to see him again. His laughter rang out, cruel and unhinged, as he savored Jason's torment, while the undead pinned him helplessly. Without warning, Freddy's disembodied razor-fingered hands shot through the air and snatched up Jason's machete. The weapon spun and drove straight into Jason's back. Freddy sneered, calling him a dumbass, mocking how Jason couldn't even turn his back without being stabbed by his own blade. He relished every second of it, gloating that Jason should have known better than to trust anyone. Jason slowly turned toward Freddy, fury burning behind his mask. With a surge of raw strength, he tore himself free from the zombies clutching at him. Grabbing the machete lodged in his chest, he dragged it through his own torso in a brutal, sickening motion, ripping it free as blood and gore sprayed everywhere. Freddy paused for a moment, thrown off by the sheer brutality of it, but quickly recovered. He turned his focus back to what mattered, the Necronomicon. Confidently, he declared his plan to unleash new nightmares on children across the world, throwing one last taunt at Jason before suddenly realizing something was wrong. The book was gone. "Where's my book?" Then it hit him. Ash was missing. Freddy roared in fury. "Williams, where's my goddamn book?" The nightmare around him began to warp and expand into something even more grotesque. His giant face appeared in the sky, screaming at Ash as he ran through the woods. The trees suddenly twisted to life, possessed by deadites, their branches grabbing hold of Ash and trying to drag him down. Ash shouted back at Freddy, telling him to get out of his head and come up with his own ideas. Ravens swooped in, pecking and tearing at his flesh, drawing blood. Ash bit down on one of them and spat the deadite bird out. Fighting through the pain, he fired up his lightning chainsaw and roared as he carved his way through the possessed forest. Bursting free, Ash landed hard and rose to his feet just as the final raven tried to escape. He casually rested his boomstick on his shoulder and fired without looking. The bird exploded mid-air. "Oh yeah! Hail to the king, birdies!" Ash stepped out of the woods and found Raoul and Jarvis butchered. He cursed himself for not being there to protect them. The sight hit him hard, filling him with regret. He picked up Carrie's locket lying nearby, and for a moment, it reminded him of Linda. Then a voice called out. Ash turned and saw Carrie. She told him she had hidden, thinking Jason would kill her next, but he had suddenly left, as if something had pulled him away. Ash realized things had escalated. Freddy, now empowered by the Necronomicon, wasn't just controlling dreams anymore. He was bending reality itself. Carrie confirmed it, admitting how much stronger Freddy had become. They soon found the Necronomicon. It rose into the air on its own, pages flipping as if alive. The book revealed disturbing images of Jason, Pamela Voorhees, and Freddy. Ash pieced it together. Jason was a deadite, brought back when Pamela had read from the Necronomicon. That meant the same book could banish both him and Freddy back to the deadite dimension. Ash quickly came up with a plan. He told Carrie to hold on to the Necronomicon and read the right passage, ending with Klaatu, Barata, Nikto. Together, they would open a rift and trap both monsters. Before they could act, Freddy's nursery rhyme echoed through the air. Ghostly children appeared, chanting, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. When Ash tried to warn them, the children revealed their true forms and attacked. Ash didn't hesitate. He switched into survival mode, revving his chainsaw and blasting away with his boomstick, tearing through the deadite children in a storm of blood and limbs. When he blew the head off the last one, a snake slithered out, its face resembling Freddy. Ash blasted that too. In the chaos, Freddy seized Carrie, grabbing her and taunting her, licking her face in a grotesque attempt to break her. Carrie recoiled in disgust, calling him a sick bastard. At that moment, Jason burst into the scene, drawing Freddy's attention. Freddy laughed, calling himself a god, and used his powers to rip massive beams from the Voorhees house and hurl them at Jason, trying to crush him. Seeing the opportunity, Ash shouted for Carrie to start reading. As Jason and Freddy clashed violently, Carrie began the incantation, but before she could finish, Jason lunged and tore the Necronomicon from her hands. Ash mocked Jason, and then used his lightning chainsaw to rip the hockey mask off his face, revealing the decayed horror beneath. Damn your one ugly mother. Ash kept the pressure on, taunting Jason further, calling him Stumpy, while trying to figure out how to stop something that couldn't be killed from taking the book and killing Carrie. Then it hit him. You disarm him. Ash lunged forward and chainsawed off Jason's hand holding the book. Quick, Carrie, get the book. Carrie grabbed it just in time, and Ash told her to open the portal and send them both back to hell. Jason and Ash faced each other. Jason shoved his machete into the stump where his hand had been, turning it into a weapon. Ash made a crack about originality and stood his ground, but Jason was stronger. He grabbed Ash and hurled him through a glass window, sending him crashing outside. Freddy was still standing. The entire structure began to shake violently under his power. Beams snapped, walls crumbled, and the house collapsed with a deafening crash. leaving Ash sprawled across the ground as everything came down around him. Chapter 6. Swallow this, evil. Carrie frantically tried to shake Ash awake, urging him to come back to consciousness. Her voice trembled as she pleaded, telling him she couldn't do this alone, begging him to help while clutching the Necronomicon tightly. Ash lay slumped, battered and unmoving, showing no response, and her panic only deepened. Meanwhile, Ash mumbled in his dazed state, "Oh no, the Chosen One is dead. Who's gonna kill the boogeymen?" He went on sarcastically, grumbling that this job didn't pay enough for him to die for a bunch of panty-waist moviegoers. As he rambled on, Carrie kept trying to pull him back, while Freddy's voice cut through from the background, mocking her and calling her a little cheerleader. Carrie's fear intensified as Freddy's power spread across the area, flames erupting and dark energy swirling around him. Reveling in his newfound strength, Freddy casually unleashed explosions with flicks of his clawed hand, taking clear enjoyment in the chaos he controlled. Carrie, terrified, managed to hide, gripping the Necronomicon as if her life depended on it, because it did. She knew keeping it away from Freddy was the only thing keeping her alive. Even as his shadow crept closer, Freddy continued to taunt her, sneering that victims like her always believed they could hide. He compared himself to a papa bear, ready to tear into his prey, feeding on her fear. His voice twisted into sing-song cruelty as he repeated, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, fully aware of the torment he was causing. Flames burst and crackled around him as he searched, savoring the terror written across Carrie's face. He blasted apart hiding spots, one after another, each explosion pushing Carrie further into desperation. She clung to the Necronomicon, her last shred of hope. With one final taunt, Freddy blew apart her cover, knocking her to the ground as she held onto the book. She whispered to herself that none of it was real, but her trembling eyes betrayed the truth. Freddy lifted her into the air with his claws. As she screamed, he leaned in with a twisted grin, soaking in her fear. He mocked her again, twisting religious imagery into something grotesque, declaring himself her god. Then he carved into his own chest, revealing something monstrous within. "This is my body. It is your bread. This is my blood. It is your wine." He sneered closer. "Now eat me, bitch!" Carrie screamed, refusing to let go of the Necronomicon. Freddy laughed, relishing her helplessness, calling her a choir girl as he reached for the book, convinced victory was within his grasp. Then Jason appeared. Freddy was momentarily caught off guard, but quickly recovered, shifting his mockery toward Jason. He sneered, asking if Jason couldn't die like a good little turd, and mocked his past failures, even bringing up the swimming lessons he never passed. Freddy unleashed bursts of fire and explosions, trying to finish Jason off, but Jason fought back, slashing at him with his machete. Despite his confidence, Freddy began to grow irritated at Jason's persistence. He taunted him, claiming the Necronomicon had given him power beyond your little toys, as he struck back. Deciding to end it, Freddy used his newfound abilities and exhaled a freezing blast that locked Jason in place, encasing him in ice. Certain that Jason was no longer a threat, Freddy turned back toward the Necronomicon, ready to eliminate his enemies for good. Freddy opened the book and prepared to cast Jason away, promising him endless suffering in the Deadite dimension. He reveled in his power as he began to chant, Klaatu, Verata, but when he reached the final word, he faltered. Niktar? At that exact moment, a car slammed into him. Ash had returned. The impact knocked Freddy off balance, sending him crashing away and loosening his grip on the Necronomicon. Ash stepped out, furious, telling Freddy about everything he had endured, the people he had lost, and the ones he had been forced to dismember, all because of that cursed book. And now that it was back in play, he wasn't backing down. Ash laid into Freddy with his boomstick, beating him mercilessly before blasting him in the crotch. "Oh, that's gonna leave a mark." Freddy suddenly pointed behind him. Ash turned and muttered, "Uh-oh." Jason had joined the fight. Jason swung at him, but Ash dodged, and the strike shattered the ice instead. Ash pulled himself back up, muttering about his old Williams luck still holding strong. But the moment didn't last. He slipped and crashed through the ice, plunging into the freezing waters of Crystal Lake. Jason turned on Freddy, hacking at him with his machete. Freddy mocked him, talking about strength in numbers as he multiplied into dozens of copies. The clones swarmed Jason, tearing into him as they shouted, "Get him!" The attack was relentless, Freddy slicing and clawing from every direction, but Jason fought through them, cutting them down one by one, his machete tearing through the clones until Freddy found himself losing ground. Underwater, Ash struggled, but managed to rev his chainsaw, cutting through the ice and pulling himself back to the surface. He took aim and fired his shotgun, blasting a hole straight through Jason's chest. Without hesitation, he turned on Freddy, charging with his chainsaw as sparks and blood flew in a savage three-way battle. In the chaos, Jason grabbed Ash and hurled him straight into Freddy, sending both of them sliding across the frozen lake. Seizing the opportunity, Carrie began reading from the Necronomicon. As she completed the passage, a portal ripped open, its pull dragging everything toward it. Freddy fought against it, screaming as he was pulled closer, but he couldn't resist forever. Jason dug in, resisting the force with sheer strength, until a car smashed into him, knocking him into the lake. As the Necronomicon was dragged toward the portal, Freddy managed to grab it, trying to read from it to stop the spell, but the pull overwhelmed him. He was sucked into the portal, losing his grip on the book, which fell into the icy water as the portal sealed shut. Silence followed. Ash and Carrie stood there, catching their breath. Ash, still himself, joked that Freddy would probably enjoy his time at Club Deadite as a permanent resident. Carrie asked if it was really over, if Freddy and Jason were gone. Ash admitted he wasn't completely sure, but they had done their part. Ash reflected on how the Necronomicon seemed to bend reality itself, dragging him into this nightmare, maybe even hoping he'd die in the process. He smirked slightly and muttered that it serves Eam right, adding that it was too good to be the king. As the sun rose over the frozen lake, everything seemed still again. Ash and Carrie walked away, leaving the horror behind, for now. Beneath the ice, the Necronomicon drifted silently, its pages turning on their own to an image hinting at an even greater battle between Ash, Freddy, and Jason. Deeper below, Jason floated in the dark water. His eyes suddenly snapped open, and Jason's whisper echoed in the background. So, my horrormongers, you guessed it right, the bloodbath didn't end there. It spills over in the next installment, Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, the Nightmare Warriors. So stay glued to that blood-soaked couch, because all three horror icons are coming back in our next video, dripping carnage and chaos, fighting till the world spills its guts. Till then, spread the word like wildfire. Comics FM is just getting started, and the slaughter has only begun.